Hey all, Heretic here. Today in the Battlegrounds, we're talking patch 31.0.3, dropping today, November 21st. We're going to cover all things Battlegrounds that's going to be happening with this patch. And there's a little bit of, changing of minions and trinkets and all that good stuff towards the very end of the season. Let's jump right into it and see what's changing. Well, Matt, as the season comes to a close, we primarily focused on making adjustments to cards that will be leaving at the end of the season. Specifically, we wanted to raise the power of Naga and Beasts a little bit while lowering the power of Quilboar as well. We also removed or adjusted some frustrating / unpopular trinkets. One absence this patch is to hero adjustments. We decided not to make significant changes to any heroes at this time because we expect the meta to change significantly. In 31.2, we'll be able to adjust them when trinkets are rotated out. We're expecting to make some hero adjustments in the first major balance patch. After the new season launches, we'll see you in the tavern. Basically, the season's rounding up. What is the point? If we're going to end the season of changing heroes based on the current meta, and then immediately there's going to be a new meta with a whole new series of things, that much makes sense. So hopefully we'll see some big changes to some hero balancing into that first major patch. Hit some of the problematic new heroes we have to deal with. Whatever hero is the current high rolling champion, right? Let's jump into the minion changes now. Let's start with Critter Wrangler that goes from a 2/5 and gives a buff of +2/+2 every time you cast a spell on a minion to now a 3/6 that gives a 3/3 buff when you're casting spells. And this certainly makes Critter Wrangler a lot more viable than they have been recently. I'm never super excited to get them. Typically, this is the kind of card I happen to generate somehow, and I'm like, okay, I've got this. I wait till I get all my spellcrafts lined up. I put this on the board. I play them all once. Next turn, I will immediately play the spellcrafts, and then I will sell this and put something else in there. I can't think of many times I've wanted to have enough to get a gold one of these or anything along those lines. It certainly happened. It's just a rarity. These extra stats might help a little bit at least. Soft-hearted Siren goes from a 3/6 to a 3/10, otherwise functionally the same. Living Azurite goes from a Tavern 4 6/6 to a Tavern 3 4/4. Maybe Azurite players, you finally have enough time to get this thing and start actually casting spells to make it worthwhile using. Maybe, probably not, but maybe. Iridescent Skyblazer goes from a 4/8 whenever a friendly beast takes damage, giving a 1/1 buff, to a 3/7 whenever a friendly beast takes damage, giving a +2/1 buff. Permanent. Not really anything bad with that, right? If you like Skyblazer, this just got better. I'm still not really excited about beast, but that certainly makes some builds a lot more viable than they were a moment before. Moonbacon Jazzer, definitely not loving it. Goes from a tier 2 2/3 to a tier 3 2/5. It is now going to be a lot harder for you to find those Moonbacon Jazzers. Maybe we'll finally see a slight downgrade in Quilboar. Maybe, probably not, but maybe. Karmic Chameleon got a change, and I kind of feel like they should do this more often with this kind of card, but it's used to be Avenge 5, transform into a copy to the left of this. Now it is a Avenge 5 turn into a golden copy to the minion to the left of this. Now, remember, it's only the gold version this change affects. The normal versions are exactly the same. But I don't like it when there's a triple reward card that doesn't do anything. When it's a meaningless upgrade, it feels sad because sometimes you don't even want to triple these cards, right? It's randomly generated and you're like, well, I wanted to have 2 very buffed versions of it, but now I have 1 gigantic version that's more vulnerable to things that can instant kill it. So I kind of feel like even a card that's good, that when it's just singles, if you triple it, it should always kind of do something beyond just a couple stats, because let's face it, deep in the game, stats matter a lot less on those triple rewards because doubling the stats on a baseline minion really is nothing. So I like changes like this. I kind of wish they'd explore more of this. Landlubber goes from a tier 3 4/5 to a tier 4 5/6. Basically, that's this and Azurite swapping places where they were. Friends gets a change it needed ages ago. I was screaming about this in the buddy meta, then it was put into the buddy pool for the spell, and they finally are fixing it. You don't need battle cry buddies because they're just too good. They're always too good. And I'm so happy to see this change, but It goes from being a 3/3 battle cry, discover a plain copy of a different minion that you have exactly one of, to now 4/4. When you sell this, discover a plain copy of a different minion that you have exactly one of. That is a big difference. The battle cries were the painful part. This feels more balanced and what it should be. It should have just always been. That's all there is to it. Velbat getting changed yet again, goes from being a 9/6 at the end of your turn, your other demons consume a minion in the tavern to gain its stats, to now a 9/5 at the end of your turn, your demons each consume a minion in the tavern to gain its stats. Basically, it can buff itself again. They keep flip-flopping on this, and I really despise when it doesn't buff itself. It's useless. Like, no wonder it's so hungry. It gives everybody else stats and it doesn't keep any for itself. Yeah, it should be famished. I'm happy to see this change. I kind of hated this nerf, and I just don't really understand the logic behind making it kind of the useless minion on the board. We've got some trinket changes. Belcher Portrait goes from whenever a friendly minion loses Venomous, gains +3/+3 permanently, to now a 4/4 buff. It's not a huge change. It's a 1 stat difference every time a minion loses Venom. Pretty damn good with running a Murloc board, throwing around Venom. The stat gain I've never really been that much in love with in the case of the lesser trinket. The greater one is actually really nice, but the lesser one can make a big difference in the early game too, so more viable. Kaboombot Portrait goes from doing an extra 8 damage to an extra 10 damage. It's either still amazingly effective or useless depending which opponents are in the final stages of your game, but a little more viable against those big health boards, and I always think it's fun to watch people use this build, so I'm definitely up for seeing more of this. Dalaran Cheese Wheel goes from every time you roll 5 times, giving the minions in the tavern +1/+1, to now 4 times. It's a good change. I don't see anybody use this anymore, so it'd be nice to maybe see somebody use it before it goes away. Blingtron Sunglasses go from 3 to 4 gold, otherwise the same. Azeroth Model Globe goes from 1 to 0 gold, and Rewinder Portrait goes from 4 to 3. And at some point, wasn't this 7? Quite the change in cost. Now for the greater trinket buffs. Bronzebeard Portrait goes from, hey, you used to get a brand, your brand Bronzebeards are both Murlocs and Dragons, to now you get a brand Bronzebeard and a random Battlecry minion. Your brand's Bronzebeards are both Murlocs and Dragons. Wow, they are really trying to incentivize this for you. They're like, look, we're going to give you the brand, we're going to make it 2 different tribes, and look, just take it, we'll give you an extra minion also. Which is just crazy. I love it. Nala Trinket got a bit of a change also. Goes from being 8 gold, get a Nala the Redeemer, tavern spells cost 1 less, to now 5 gold, get a Nala the Redeemer, and tavern spells cost 1 less, but not less than 1. So it's 3 gold cheaper to buy, but you can't get free spells from it anymore, which kind of is annoying. I loved that. You'd get the tavern spell that would give you a tavern full of spells. You'd play it and you'd get like 3 free spells. Now I gotta pay for them? Okay. Bob-blehead got a change and it's beautiful. I've always said it's too expensive, and now it's old. The tavern no longer offers cards from tier 1 or 2. New, gain 2 gold. The tavern no longer offers cards from tier 1 or 2. You got it. They're paying you to take this crap. Belcher Portrait basically goes from giving a permanent 12/12 to a permanent 14 buff whenever a friendly minion loses Venom. I'm fine with this change. I like this one, so I'm good. Let's go for it. The Greater Cheese Wheel goes from giving the buff every 5 times you refresh to now every 4 times you refresh. Maybe I'll see 1 person use this before the season ends now. Azerite Portrait goes from 1 gold to 4 gold, which makes a little sense just because they've moved Azerite to a lower tier, so you're more likely to have these and find more of them, so that kind of makes sense. It costs a little more. But since they're trying to make this fun at the end of the season, I almost feel like they should have just left it where it was anyways, but me. Twin Sky Lantern goes from 2 to 1 gold, and Promo Portrait goes from 1 to 0 gold. Nothing wrong with free. Cool updates. We've got some things that are disappearing, it turns out. First, Agam Thorn Curse will stay removed from the minion pool. Wow, we didn't see that coming at all. Next, Primal Fin Portrait, Shaman Prayer Breeds, and Precious Pearl have been removed from the trinket pools. And I gotta say, yeah. Okay, first of all, Shaman Prayer Beads, I give zero craps about. Don't care, none at all. Precious Pearl, I've used it a couple times. It was very good in certain scenarios. Primal Fin Portrait was my favorite portrait by a landslide. It was just great. Every time you discover something, getting random tavern spells, it was so much fun. All the RNG, you were infinite, and it was just fun to cycle. It probably was too strong. I get that, but I wasn't playing it because it was too strong. I was playing it because it was fun. And now it's just gone. The Eye of Sargeras will be removed from Trinket Pool if you have souvenir stamps. Ticketed sticker has been removed from Mystery Cube. I've always been surprised it was in the cube. It's like, oh, I will immediately take the cube, which is expensive, and the first thing it offers me is ticketed sticker. And I'm like, well, normally I've got to wait 4 turns. Sure, you take that, you get it a couple turns later, you're like, okay. I thought this was silly that it was even offered in the cube. So makes perfect sense it's been removed. Just curious why it was ever there. We have one bug fix to mention to people, and that is fixed a bug where blood gems sometimes didn't work when you had training certificate as a trinket. I did not encounter this buff. I did not hear of anyone encounter this buff, but it would be really annoying because this build is based around, I'm going to run like 2 tiny minions for a few turns. And if I put the blood gems on them, they don't do anything. Makes it a lot harder to make this build work. And it's just a fun, stupid build. It's not really something you're supposed to win with anywhere near consistently, but it's fun because you can make 2 gigantic minions and then fill out the rest of your board at the end. But if you put the blood gems on them and they don't do anything, odds of you actually getting to the end of the game are pretty low. That's it. That's all the changes in this patch. That's going live today. Should be about 1 p.m. Eastern. What do you think? Are you happy with these changes? Do you feel like they're too little, too late? Myself, I'm kind of sad about the removal of the Primal Fin portrait. I thought that was a lot of fun, that portrait. Maybe it's breaking the game. Maybe no one else is using it, but I think it is just great. And that one is the one that bothers me. Otherwise, I kind of think at the end, everything should just be cheaper. I mean, one of the weaknesses of trinkets, to me at least, is, hey, I get to spend most of my gold this turn on a trinket and I'm done. That's just not feeling a great thing. So it's like, don't make them more, make them less. Give it to me for free. Say this week, trinkets are free, go nuts. That would be a fun way to end it. Just something different. Throw everything out we know and just be like, the trinkets are free. And I understand that makes some a lot better. It's the end. Let's have fun with it. All right, that's it. I'm out of here. Comment. Let me know what you think. I'm really curious and would like to know what you think about all these changes. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the Battlegrounds. Till then, have a good one. Later.